Welcome to the University Writing Center's presentation for responding with the rhetorical situation. First, let's discuss the rhetorical situation. It is a situation created when an author makes one statement and a reader responds. The conversation isn't a real-time discussioning that's happening, but writing that is happening in response to a reading. For example, when an author makes a point about water conservation, and even years later, somebody responds to that original reading by writing an article about modern uses or water-saving technology. We'll start here with discussing ethos. Why is the writer qualified to speak? For example, an author who writes about zoology issues should either be a zoologist or have used relevant evidence from an expert in that field to support his claim, because having authority or expertise bolsters the argument. Does the writer have recognizable attitude or tone? A bad attitude or weak use of language may negatively affect a writer's ethos. If she is a confident speaker, she will not be using passive or questioning language. Passive language makes a speaker sound unsure and might affect credibility. If a writer is angry about her topic, you may hear it in her word choices. If a writer uses vicious language to attack others, they might lose credibility. Does the writer use any biases when presenting his point? When two speakers are arguing about which candidate is the best, the biased speaker only has amazing things to say about his favorite candidate and negative things to say about other candidates. When people hear a biased speaker, they may lose confidence in the speaker's credibility. How does a writer connect with an audience? A speaker may use words, images, and tempo choices that specifically reach her chosen audience. For example, she may speak with a fast tempo and an excited tone of voice when encouraging her audience into action. How does the text relate to the topic? For example, charts and statistics would be relevant to a public works proposal because the audience for that proposal will want to know concrete reasons for spending the public's money on a project and would appreciate the visual representations, making the information more approachable. Is the writer using language to construct identity? For example, a writer making social commentary about the benefits of texting in relation to literacy may include text language within his article to create the identity of a person who uses texting for communication. Let's consider how to apply the use of ethos in responding. If the rhetorical situation is a proposal for a new college parking structure, which is supported by the author's use of local college students speaking to the need, 10-year-old data on population statistics, and a cost-to-benefit chart created by college students and faculty, you could respond about the author's use of ethos. One response on ethos would be about the fact that local students would be a good source about the need for improved parking. They would know. A writer wouldn't be considered authoritative if all they used is 10-year-old data. It indicates that someone has not done their research for recent information. In responding to the example of the cost analysis chart created by both students and faculty, you could note that the chart is authoritative because of being reviewed by faculty before publication. Now let's move on to considering logos. What kind of evidence is the author using? A nonprofit organization for pet adoption promotion may use emotional appeals, such as an image of a starving homeless dog, while otherwise they might use statistic data about the rising costs of food and materials to show support for needed financing to appeal logically. Is the evidence provided current, relevant, authoritative, accurate, and purposeful? For example, if arguing about new technology, then the use of old data or evidence is probably not as effective because outdated information may no longer be accurate. If the evidence is not exactly relevant to the author's claim, then using that information will not make sense to the audience. Likewise, if the evidence does not clearly have a purpose, then the audience might get a little lost about why this information is being used. Is there a complete argument with many points of view? Sometimes, when a speaker passionately argues his topic, he may miss or forget some key information or an alternative point of view, an example being some political parties who only argue their own point. Can the author's argument be debated? Some claims can be argued, such as all guns should be banned. Some could argue that maybe not all guns should be banned, and that maybe some could be controlled, but not banned, right? When a person uses generalities in their writing, it causes others to question the validity of what is being said. What key words or sentence structures is the writer using, and for what purpose? The repeated use of "take action" might be used to provoke audience action, such as participation in activism. When a writer successfully uses key words to exemplify their purpose, the audience can better access that main point. Let's consider how to apply the use of logos in responding. So the example rhetorical situation here is an appeal to logic by using statistics that show the need for young voters, repeating the words "rock the vote," and using polling to explore reasons for non-voters. So you could note that the author is indicating an obvious difference between generations of voters by using statistics that show low numbers of young voters, appealing to the logic of young people. You could indicate that the repetition of "rock the vote" will keep these key words that call action into the minds of audience. You could also argue that polling is often done in a small amount of people that may not represent the opinions of most young adults. Lastly, let's look at pathos. Is the author appealing to the audience in a way that makes them understand how the author feels? When speaking on pet adoption, an author may use the image of a skinny street dog shivering in the rain to get people to feel what it is like to be abandoned. Then the audience would likely feel pity for the animal and might go adopt a dog themselves. Is the author using too much or too little emotional appeal? For example, when appealing to the public for donations, an organization may exemplify a social problem by showing scary images or incredibly sad moments to get the audience to feel terrible and donate. The emotional appeal is sometimes too much, which may make readers turn the page or ignore the problem. On the other hand, the same appeal for donations, if read in a flat voice and supported by not enough emotional appeal, may make the readers not feel anything for the situation and thereby not donate. Is the author targeting his audience appropriately? If a musician is targeting teens, he may likely be talking about modern issues that young people deal with today, not issues long past. A musician might target teens by singing about teen depression since it is a current problem. Does the writer seem to have assumptions about audience, like beliefs, values, and attitudes? For example, if a speaker says everybody knows about animal abuse in her speech, an audience member may feel that they aren't as aware of this issue as they should be. This appeal may get readers more involved. Let's consider how to apply the use of pathos in responding. This rhetorical situation is appealing to donors in hopes of feeding the hungry in foreign countries, with the author appealing to an audience's sense of guilt that everyone knows about this issue, yet nothing is being done. Alongside photos of pot-bellied, severely skinny children with filthy, tattered clothing and open wounds who are crying, and a final statement that closes with an appeal to the feeling of obligation for pennies per day, insinuating that anybody can help alleviate this problem. You could respond to this rhetorical situation by noting that the use of everyone and doing nothing is an appeal that might make the audience feel guilty for not doing anything. Another response might be to take note of the sad, harsh images used in that the author is appealing to the audience's pity. You could suggest that the use of pennies per day could indicate that people of any income level should be able to afford donations. This makes an appeal to the person's sense of guilt. Overall, when you're responding to a rhetorical situation, such as rhetorically analyzing a public speech, you will want to create an effective response by considering the use of ethos, pathos, and logos.